So why are there so many electric rodent Pokemon? Modern day rodents are incredibly diverse and successful. They live in a wider range of habitats, they're adaptable, and they have incredibly fast reproduction. Real rodents really started appearing about 66 million years ago after the extinction of the dinosaurs, filling roles that were left behind after such a large extinction event. But electric rodent Pokemon really didn't go through that. They didn't have a big extinction event, so why are there so many of them? Well, you've come to the right channel. Welcome to Geek Ecology. Here we talk about all your favorite fictional fandoms and the ecology of their organisms. So let's get started. One species can become multiple species through a process called speciation. And this occurs because of natural selection and mutations. And if you want more on that topic, check out my video on natural selection here. Since we're talking about electric rodent Pokemon, let's start with the evolution of electricity. Electricity is generated in living organisms in cells called electrocytes. In these electric rodent Pokemon, those electrocytes are contained in the cheek pouches that are found in all of our Pokemon today. And these are just cells that generate electricity and are derived from skeletal muscle. And they're compiled together to act like a battery by storing electricity before being able to release it. But how did these Pokemon first evolve this organ? Since all the Pokemon that we're talking about today have this organ, it was probably very important for the very first electric rodent Pokemon while they were first evolving. And this is called a basal characteristic or a symplesiomorphy. And that is just a characteristic found in all members of a lineage. So in birds it might be wings, in electric rodent Pokemon it might be electric cheek pouches. And these cheek pouches can help these Pokemon's bodies act as capacitors, which are things that store electrical energy. If parts of a Pokemon's body were constantly exposed to electric currents, it's possible that over time natural selection would select for its body to be able to better handle these electric currents, and become better capacitors or better insulated. So we just have to figure out why a rodent Pokemon was always exposed to so much electricity. So looking at other rodents, we know that real-life modern-day rodents also have cheek pouches. They don't generate electricity, they can't shock people, but they are important. Rodent cheek pouches are expandable areas inside their mouth that they use to store seed and grain while they're out foraging. This is important for just shoving as much food as you can in your mouth while you're out in the open or at risk to predation, so that you can gather up all of this food and then run and go hide before you go and eat it. You don't want to be a mouse sitting in a field munching on some grain when there's hawks flying around above you. So this tells us a couple things. This shows that seeds and grains were likely a very important food source, and that many rodents are prey items. This is likely true for real-life rodents and also our electric rodent Pokemon. Well, what if these seeds that they're constantly gathering and putting in their cheek pouches generated electricity? What if there was an electric seed Pokemon that these early electric rodent Pokemon were eating? It's possible that the common ancestor of all of our modern day electric rodent Pokemon were selectively finding Hisuian Voltorb, storing it in their cheek pouches, and then moving away to safety before consuming it. Hisuian Voltorb is a grass electric Pokemon that is known to store lots of seeds inside of its body. It's possible that natural selection selected for Pokemon that were better able to deal with its electric attacks. Over time, those Pokemon that could find Hisuian Voltorb better and store their seeds would have more energy and therefore be able to produce more offspring. But Hisuian Voltorb also knows electric type attacks, so those Pokemon would have to adapt and be able to overcome those electric attacks. And because electric types resist electric attacks, maybe some of those rodent Pokemon became electric types by being able to store those electric attacks from Hisuian Voltorb in their cheek pouches, where either the entire Hisuian Voltorb or its seeds are located. And this storage of electric energy can explain some of the more basal forms of the electric rodent Pokemon that we have today. A few of them don't generate their own electricity, they have to absorb it from some extrinsic source. So Pokemon like Togedemaru, Dedenne, and Plusle and Minun have to store electricity from somewhere else. They can't just generate their electricity for their big electric attacks like a Pikachu might be able to. However, now that Hisuian Voltorb doesn't really exist in the wild, they've had to adapt and change their strategy for absorbing electricity. So many of these Pokemon now get their electricity from modern sources like power plants. Well, that still leaves quite a few other electric rodent-type Pokemon. How do we explain those? Well, what if there was a selection pressure to form stronger electric organs, like those found in the electric eel, which are used to stun other organisms? We know that finding seeds and eating Hisuian Voltorb weren't the only problems that early electric Rodent Pokemon faced. There were also prey items for many different Pokemon, most notably flying-type bird Pokemon. Birds of prey are very common predators to modern-day rodents, so it makes sense that flying-type bird Pokemon would also be a common predator. And what type of attacks are flying types weak to? Yeah, you guessed it, electric types. So in conjunction with being able to store electric energy from Hisuian Voltorb, I think that electricity in rodent Pokemon evolved as a predator deterrent. And we see this in some of the Pokedex entries of some of our other electric rodent Pokemon. Emolga's Pokedex entry straight up says that it uses electricity to deter bird Pokemon while flying. So there we have evidence that they use it as a predator deterrent and that bird Pokemon want to prey on them. So this offensive use or defensive use of their electric pouches led to some of the more advanced electric rodent Pokemon that we now see, like the Pikachu line, Emolga, Pachirisu, and Morpeko, because they can all generate their own electricity. And there we have it, my hypothesis for why we have such a diverse electric type rodent Pokemon assemblage today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and feel free to check out my other videos. You can also find my shorter format content on TikTok under Geek Ecology. Happy researching, and we'll see you next time.